Workday's over, grab a drink, it's time for happy hour. Let's do it.
Hello and welcome back to the United Happy Hour, Paulie, where unlike at Old Trafford, added time is always welcome. And I'm sure we'll get on to talking about added time later on in the show, actually, Paulie. I don't know where that came from. I just felt like saying it. So anyway, I said it. There we go.
Because it's the opposite here. We have a hard out.
Exactly.
When we hit the hour, it's no more added time, Joe.
Well, yeah. We need to be on it. We always say this, though, Paulie, and now and again we do give the viewers 3 or 4 extra minutes, it seems. I don't know what happens. Sometimes we just get engrossed in the chat. But, Paulie, we had a nice chat last week. We ended up going a little bit off tangent regarding Europe and the World Cup and everything like that. But it was nice. It gave us the opportunity to interact with our viewers. I'm guessing after this weekend's performance, you wouldn't be too against the idea of going on to talking about UEFA and FIFA and the World Cups again, would you?
No, you wouldn't, or you'd still sit around and say it's incredibly stupid that we're playing these games right now. Just make a postseason tournament for crying out loud. I mean, I still laugh that we're, not to get us onto a tangent, but here it comes. I still laugh that we are still planning on doing a pan-European Euros over the summer, like as if that's a good idea. And what an awful tournament that will be, because the players are going to be exhausted. And look, whatever you think about international football, and I know people are divided, I love it. And I love the Euros. I love watching it. But the reason the Euros are fun to watch is the spectacle and the colors, the red and yellow of the Belgian fans, the yellow and blue of the Swedish fans, the green,
the orange of the Dutch.
Yeah, the green of the Irish fans, and the mixture of colors. And then you go on the internet and you see all the videos of all the fans drinking in the town squares and singing and all that. So if there is no fans, there's just no point of the Euros, because international football isn't as good as club football.
And there's lots of competitions across all sports, Paulie, that have been literally cancelled because they're just nothing without supporters. I mean, one example I'll use, Paulie, is the golf, for example. I don't know if people watch golf out there, but the Ryder Cup, for example, it's all about the fans, that competition where Europe play against the USA, and the fans make a tournament like that. And like you say, Paulie, I think you're absolutely spot on with the Euros without fans is absolutely crazy. And what I don't understand is that we're here now in February, coming into March, and we have a situation where countries aren't letting club teams and players from different countries go into their country to play games. How is a pan-European Euros going to work? I mean, is that much going to change in the next 3 or 4 months? I mean, obviously, we hope it was. We hope it does. But, I mean,
I hope we were saying
this
last
year, and look where we are.
Right. And look, if you want to sequester everybody into one country, I mean, Israel just submitted a proposal to UEFA to host the latter rounds of the Champions and Europa League, as well as the Euros. If you want to sequester everybody into a country because you're that desperate to play, that's fine. It won't be the same. And I don't think you'll get the fan interest because the football will be bad. The 2014 format isn't good. And you don't have the pageantry of the different fans. Israel said they'd be able to have fans because their vaccinations are, they're doing a great job with vaccinations.
Yeah.
So maybe. Like I can understand that, but to go pan-European, I mean, right now we can't even go to Real Sociedad to play a Europa League game because there's travel restrictions between the countries, and now you want all these teams and to be traveling between countries for different matches. It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah, no, I agree. Paulie, look, while we're talking about Europe, and obviously this is going on to now United European campaign, we might as well kick off with this question because we're just chatting about football, United in general. And a question here from Average is, gosh, who says, do we seriously need to consider the Europa, or can we play the kids there and forget about it? Also, Mark's come in and said, yes, boys, will be great to see Ahmed in the squad tomorrow. Hopefully he makes an appearance tomorrow. Now, Paulie, it's an interesting one, this, because I remember when we were first kicked out of the Champions League. I don't know if it was sour grapes or feeling a bit low, but we were all just like, sack off the Europa League. It's an opportunity to rotate, rest some players. Now, I have seen over the last few weeks, and we'll talk about this a bit more, fans are starting to worry about even top four now, given our recent form, and are starting to think, well, actually, Europa League becomes a bit more important. And I'll go as far as to say, even some big accounts on Twitter have been doing predicted lineups for the game on Thursday, as some of them think that we'll go strong and think that we should go strong. Where do you sit on this?
I'm glad this question came up because I was going to pull a tweet and then I didn't have time to go search because I got it last night and I rolled my eyes. And then I was like, oh, we have great commenters on this show and they'll bring it up. And Average delivers 6 minutes in. I don't see the point of forgetting about it. Look, this is how I've always viewed the Europa League. It's not the European competition we want. It's the European competition we got. And if you are trying to build a squad that's going to be able to compete on multiple fronts, they need to be used to playing twice a week in Europe. Just because we're not playing Real Madrid, we're playing Real Sociedad, doesn't mean that all of a sudden, that game is beneath Anthony Martial. So you still need to play it and you still need to take it seriously. Now in January, we heard, bug off the Europa League so that we can focus on the title challenge that we were never really in. And now we're worried about top four. Well, if you're worried about top four, why, and qualifying for the Champions League, why would you mug off one of the paths into the Champions League? Yeah. 4 years ago 4 years ago at this point, Jose Mourinho was in this situation. Not in this situation. He was fifth or sixth in the league. He was on the outside looking in, and he immediately mugged the league off and just said, nope, we're putting all of our eggs in the Europa League basket. Paul Pogba only played in 5 of United's final 12 league games, and 2 of those games he only played 45 minutes. So he only played 90 minutes 3 times in the last 12 games of the league. He missed 2 games with injury, and the rest, he was just rested. He did not miss a single Europa League game. That tells you everything right there. As Jose said, my best player, who won the best player of the Europa League award. My best player is playing Thursday nights. That's where I need to focus. So with Ollie, you've got 2 paths here. Now, don't forget, United are in second place, and their numbers suggest they should be in the top 4. Their underlying numbers suggest they should be in the top 4. Their form right now is worrying, but also predictable. Like, they were outperforming themselves in January. Regression was coming. Leicester are currently outperforming themselves, and they were a prime candidate for regression last year, and it came. It came a little bit more extreme, but it came. At the end of the day, Leicester's underlying numbers did not put them in the top 4. It just seemed like they had built themselves a big enough lead that they'd be able to withstand it, and they managed to collapse just enough. So United should be fine, but there's also, remember this. Solskjaer, all he does, first of all, Manchester United are a team that compete for every trophy that they're in. They want to win every competition. That is the Manchester United DNA, which is what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is trying to bring back to this club. Compete for every trophy. So you can't say that and then, say, but we're just going to mug off the Europa League. You can't tell Bruno Fernandes, the Europa League's below us. He came here to win trophies. And now you're going to tell him, well, one of them is below us. Like, to me, you can't brag about winning the treble if then you decide, no, we only want to compete for one trophy. You can't say, that treble team is better than the Liverpool team that finished on 99 points because they competed for 3 trophies and won them, and then say, but we're only going to, we're a club built on competing for every trophy. So you have to take it seriously. But remember, we don't need to win every game. So you go to Sociedad tomorrow, and you don't need to play Bruno Fernandes, and you don't need to play Marcus Rashford. Solskjaer may say that United are trying to win every trophy, and they are, but that doesn't stop him from rotating his team, and it doesn't stop him from changing things up. Bruno Fernandes has not started a single FA Cup match this campaign, and one of those games was against Liverpool.
Yeah.
Last year, we were on the outside looking in, and it was like, we may not finish in the top 4, and the Europa League is possibly the best pathway to getting into the Champions League. And what did he do? He still went to Bruges, and he started a midfield of Andreas Pereira and Nemanja Matic, a front 3 of Anthony Martial, Juan Mata, and Jesse Lingard. Diogo Dalot was the right wing back. Brandon Williams was the left wing back. And that game was as terrible as it can be, but they got a 1-1 draw, which is all they needed. And then they went home and they beat them 5-0. Like, so you don't need to play your best players. And when you ask what the squad's going to look like, I mean, you're going to rotate the squad, but it's still going to look strong because we don't really have other players in the squad to go with. The notion of playing the kids is not possible. They're especially now during COVID, they're in their own bubble. Like, so you would have to mix the bubbles, which just isn't going to happen. The U23s might even have a match this weekend. So there's
plus a couple of those under 23s that people were probably considering Pauly when we went out the Champions League to play in this competition. A couple have gone out on loan now as well. Obviously, Tendon Mengi would have been expected to get some games.
Yeah,
he's gone out on loan.
The ones
even
you would
Dylan
play.
Levitt, I think Dylan Levitt's another one who may have got some game time. He's gone out on another loan. And obviously Jimmy Garner's still out on loan. So when you talk about kids, like you say, Paulie, realistically, how many of them could play? Forget COVID bubbles and whatever. We're talking about players here that have had 0 first-team minutes. With, even Ahmad has only had like a match day experience with the first-team squad. He never got on, obviously. So it's a big thing. You don't want to get embarrassed in these games, do you, Paulie? As much as whether you care or you don't about the competition underlying, you don't want to get battered. And Sociedad are a team that if you take them lightly, Paulie, they are capable of playing us off the park.
Yes, but at the same time, they were top of La Liga when the draw was made, and everybody freaked out. Oh, we got another difficult draw. They've won 3 games since then. They won 3. They've drawn 3. They've lost 4. Since the draw was made, they are 11th in La Liga. So now I think they're like 5th or something. But they're the 11th best team since that time.
Yeah,
they are a team that United should beat. And you look at this comment from Lokish, Europa would provide more freedom to players in the squad who didn't have a chance to shine. You need to give these players a chance to play. They need minutes because what happens if somebody gets hurt? And you need them to step up and play. But you also need Donny van de Beek to play. And playing in Europe is probably a better opportunity for him to really shine and show his game than maybe playing in England. His game is still more suited to the continental style, and maybe playing in England is still a little bit too physical. So it gives him just to get that confidence back, get a run in the Europa League, get a run against a team that is good, but definitely a level below you.
Yeah.
And again, we beat Club Bruges 6-1 on aggregate last year. Bruno Fernandes came on with 9 minutes to go in Bruges, and he played 65 minutes in the home leg. So Bruno Fernandes played less than 75 minutes across the 2 legs, and we won 6-1. If you can do that and let all these other players, eat the minutes, you can go far in this competition. You can try to win it without burning out your squad, which is a really good thing. Then they went to Lask, and Bruno Fernandes started that last game. Maybe that was questionable, but they won 5-0, and had that game not been postponed because of COVID, they would have been able to come home. And I called it the just don't get beat 5-0 11. And I was like, you should play Tahith Chong. You should probably play Garner next to Matic. stuff or stuff like that, where you could just have other players eat those 90 minutes. And as long as you don't lose 5-0, you would advance to the next round.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing.
Sorry.
You're gonna see the squad get rotated. I would like to, I wouldn't like to see Brandon Williams at right back. He doesn't really do anything for me there, but I'd like to see him there so that Wan-Bissaka doesn't play. And it's a lot of situations like that, and just go out there and get a result. United are not going to play Sociedad off the park. It's not going to be fun and entertaining. Like, it's going to be boring. They're gonna, but I would expect Matic to play next to Fred, and go and Ollie will be playing for the clean sheet. And 0-0 is fine and 1-0 is great. But the important thing is Sociedad get 0. And it's going to be boring, but if they get the result, by all means.
Yeah. No, Paulie, I'm with you, mate. I think that it will be somewhere in the middle as always. I don't think he'll go all out, full-blown first 11, but he also won't put kids in and he won't rotate too heavily. And I think we spoke a couple of weeks ago on this show, Paulie, about, it's an ideal opportunity in a way. I mean, some people see Europe coming back as an inconvenience because it's more fixtures or whatever, but actually we said it's an opportunity for United to rotate players without having to do it in the league. And I think that that's what Solskjaer will try and do quite cleverly. I think he will just leave the odd big player out of the Thursday game so that they're ready to go, obviously, on the following weekend. But look, let's see how it plays out, Paulie. I'm quite happy to see Europe coming back, and it's a change of scenery. It's a change of football. We know it's a slightly different game. There seems to be more space. I think United look better sometimes in Europe because of the amount of space that there is on the pitch. So let's see what it brings. We've got a comment here from Adija. What are your thoughts on Dan James playing in Europa? I think it'll definitely happen. He seems lost when not running into space. Will he get that in the Europa League? And that's probably just what I'll just be saying, probably, about there is more space in the Europa League. I think Sociedad will come at United. They will see it as an opportunity. So there might be opportunities in behind for Dan James. You know what the Spanish teams are like. They try and control the game with possession. So, opportunities for James on the counter, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, Dan James is a lock to play. I would think he's a lock to play in this game. And it's for a few reasons. One is, maybe there will be space for him to run in on the counter. Two is his work rate is phenomenal. And again, clean sheet is going to be the priority. So, and
he's going to eat 90 minutes for another player as well.
He's going to eat 90 minutes on the left wing or the right wing so that Marcus Rashford doesn't have to. And Solskjaer will be, it's keep 90 minutes. And also, Dan, go out there and I challenge you to score me a goal, because the bottom line is Dan James should be playing more right now. He has scored 3 goals in his last 4 appearances. Now that spans all the way back to, I believe, unless I'm missing an appearance. He appeared against Watford, but Champions League, Premier League, I believe it's 3 in his last 4, spanning all the way back to Istanbul at home. He scored at the end of that game. Then we didn't see him again until Leeds, where he scored. And then then he played against Leicester, where he played okay. And then he came on and then he played against Southampton and scored. I still think, James is a good player. Look, 3 goals, 6 assists in the first half of the season last year. Like, that doesn't happen by accident. And I think it's just a matter of where does he fit. He's a different player when he plays on the right than when he plays on the left. He's on the left. That's where he scores his goals from. On the right he becomes a stretch the field and creator guy. I think he's a better player on the right. His final ball still needs work, which is why, if you run down the right sideline and you can't whip in across, what good is it? And that's a fair point. But on the left, we've seen plenty of times where he runs at defenders and all he has to do is put it on his left foot, and he won't do that. So, it becomes a little clunky on the left. But this is a good opportunity for him. And remember, last year he ran into a wall in January, and then, it was hard to expect anything out of him. He wasn't supposed to have played as often as he did. Yeah. And he went out there to Lask, and he scored that goal where he thundered it into the top corner. And if you remember, every player on United, 10 players on United celebrated that goal really hard. Dan James just looked like relieved, like finally I scored a goal. It was so obvious how bad he needed that and how happy the rest of the team was for him. So this can be a chance to get him going, because you do need, because right now United just, especially if you go back to that West Brom match, and Dan James was not the answer for West Brom. He is as bad as they come against the deep block because there is no space for him to run in, and he's not great with the ball at his feet. But United look disjointed, and at times they can use an actual winger, and he's the closest thing they have to an actual winger. So I'll read this comment from Adija. Also,
the more that I read Aditya's comments, Paulie, the more I think it's your burner account, because we were having this conversation yesterday. Go on.
Yeah, I mean, and look, go back and read my post from the Newcastle match in October and everything. Would like to see Mata have more of a role. Thank you for.
Oh, sorry.
Producer over here. Have more of a role till Pogba is back, because Bruno seems to be dropping too much every time McFred play. We look devoid of creativity against West Brom. I would have, before Pogba got hurt, I would have said Mata's a lock to play in this game, for sure. Get him back in there, get his legs going. We get that creativity. He also, Van de Beek's two best performances, I think, this season have both come with Mata on the pitch. So Juan Mata has, now that Paul Pogba is hurt, I might not do that, because I would say you need him in there against Newcastle. You need someone to link that front three and that middle two, and it can't be Bruno Fernandes. Or if it is Bruno Fernandes, then you need a creator up there with the front three. Juan Mata's gone AWOL. He hasn't been pictured in training in over 2 weeks. He has not been in a match day squad since Sheffield United. And I was talking to somebody about this yesterday, and we were trying to figure out why. And he said, basically, if somebody has an unexplained absence like this right now, it's probably COVID. So
yeah, potentially. What about this though, Paulie? Obviously, Mata's creative is much needed, but United haven't triggered an extension yet. I just wonder how much of a part that's playing in it, Paulie. Both in the sense of, from a United perspective, like with Ander Herrera, are they deciding that, look, we're going to look to the future now? We know Juan's not going to be here next season, or even for Juan's sake, if he has got designs on joining a club next summer, he doesn't want to risk himself too much at the moment, because obviously if he gets injured and whatever moving into next year, it could damage his chances of playing for somebody else. We saw it with Pedro, obviously. He was going to Roma this season, and right on the last day of the season, and all close to the end, he got a nasty injury for Chelsea, and it could have really sabotaged that move for him. So I just wonder whether there's some of that at play here.
I thought about that, because there were rumors of him moving to Turkey in January, and then he hasn't played since the deadline. He hasn't been in a match day squad since the window's shut. But it's a different situation to Herrera. United knew that, first of all, United offered Herrera a new contract, but only after he basically turned them down and said, I am leaving. And it was his choice. And United said, and Solskjaer basically said, cool. That means you're not going to be here next year. I will be. So let me see what I've got in the team. Let's see if, do I have a replacement in you? But as soon as there was an opportunity to qualify for the Champions League again, if we faced Chelsea with 3 games left, if we would have won our last 3 games, we would have been in the Champions League. As soon as that happened, Herrera was back in the team. This is different, because this is completely United's control. They have the choice to extend that contract or not, which they knew about back in November. And when they have called upon Juan Mata this year, he's been great. He's been as great as you can expect. He played fantastic against Newcastle. He's been great in other games. He's been not great in some others, because, well, he's 30-something and you didn't expect him to be great every game. And then you phased him out of the team on your own choice, because Paul Pogba came back. He was playing when they couldn't rely on Pogba. And now you have a situation where he's needed again. So I don't think they'd let petty stuff like this get in the way of it. And even before he got hurt, it was like, you're going to go to the Europa League. You need, that's a great chance for Mata to get minutes and save the legs of a Greenwood or a Rashford or a Martial or Cavani or Bruno. So I don't think they would get petty in that regards with Mata. I think there's some, the COVID explanation makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, it does.
It's something else, if it's something else that worries me, what is it? But yeah, right now, like him not being around is a major thing. And it's a huge loss because he is not the direct replacement to Pogba, but you need someone in the team to connect things.
Yeah, no, I agree. Pauly. I really did not mean to do that so abruptly, Pauly. I was about to say before my finger sensitively touched my mouse pad, because that's how sensitive it is. Let's move on to look at our opening segment and what's on social media. Now, a lot of people, Pauly, will say, surely the biggest thing sort of covering Manchester United in social media today is the signing of a new contract for Mason Greenwood. But oh no, because today you have released an article again, Pauly, and we all know when you release an article on Twitter, that's social media news. As far as Man United are concerned, that nothing's bigger than that. So let's have a little chat about your article, Pauly. I know I'm going to let you shamelessly plug it, Pauly, because I'm not sure about all the platforms that it's available on. But it is. I've had a quick look at it. I will be honest. I've not had a thorough read. I've had what I would call a scan read of it. And it makes some very good points in there, but I'll let you explain it. But the thing that I found most interesting, Paulie, and that we wanted to chat about today was that you compared Manchester United to an NFL team, which I find is quite apt in the days of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning a Super Bowl and obviously owned by the Glazers. So I will leave you to explain your article.
So, yeah, I mean, the gist of it is very simple. Is in the NFL, and if you don't like cross-sport comparisons, I apologize, but that's what we're getting here. In the NFL, your team basically comes down to your quarterback. If you don't have one, it's very difficult to win. You can win, but everybody else needs to be almost perfect.
Yeah.
So, and it comes down to your quarterback and your receivers. Your receivers are your playmakers. Quarterbacks are only as good if they don't have somebody to throw the ball to. That's a problem. If they
can't catch it.
Right. Your receivers are your playmakers. The quarterback's job, they're the ones that, when a quarterback throws a 50-yard pass, it's rare for the ball to be in the air for 50 yards. It's throw, catch, run. The receivers are the ones that change a 15-yard pass into a 50-yard play.
Yeah.
It's your quarterback's job to get them the ball as often as possible in situations where they can be dangerous. You want to be able to get them into space. It's important to create separation between the receiver and the defensive back and the quarterback to hit you in stride so you can run away from them. Great quarterbacks can do that, and great quarterbacks can make receivers better. They can make their playmakers better. Think Tom Brady and every no-name NFL receiver he has played with. It's rare that a receiver, the playmaker, can make the quarterback better, but like Larry Fitzgerald did it, but it's really rare. So then there was this quarterback who played for the Jets for about six years in the aughts, and then he went to the Dolphins. Chad Pennington. Chad Pennington was a good, not great quarterback. He was the only quarterback over almost 20 years, I think like an 18-year span, to win the AFC East that's not named Tom Brady. So he's got something going for him. During his career, Pennington was the most accurate passer in NFL history. He's since been passed, but that was his thing. He didn't miss. It was safe and dependable. He had one fatal flaw. He had no arm strength. So he couldn't throw the ball down the field, which means, if teams blitz him, that's great because now there's less players down, quick pass to your receivers. There's more room to run, big play. If teams didn't blitz him, on 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, he'll throw that 6 or 7 yard pass, complete it, and get a first down. But he can't stretch the field. So it's hard for him to put his receivers into situations where they can turn it into big plays. And that's basically what happens when United take out Paul Pogba from the midfield. Is the midfield is your quarterback. It's your job to get the ball to your attackers in dangerous areas. You want to get it to Marcus Rashford when he's running at defenders. You need to get it to Bruno Fernandes in the middle of the field, in the attacking third, where he can go and be the creative linchpin. When you take out Pogba and you get McTominay and Fred, you have Chad Pennington. Very safe, very dependable. They're not going to turn the ball over. If they can make the passes, but they're not going to get the ball to your playmakers in the right position. And this article was about the forwards constantly, because they did a good job. They showed for the ball, they came back for the ball, but none of them ever wanted to turn on the ball. And when United, and this is not a one-off for West Brom. This is what we see all the time. And we saw it against Sheffield United, and we saw it so many times last year. They play a ball to Marcus Rashford, and on his first touch, it's right back. Lindelof plays a pass through the lines to Martial, and on his first touch, he gives it right back to Lindelof.
And it's been our biggest criticism of Donny as well, hasn't it, Paulie, in playing in that 10 role. That's why we said on the last show, Paulie, that's probably why players are avoiding passing to him, because they just know that the next part of the move will be a negative one, or it'll break down.
Yeah, so it's, when your quarterback, when you have the Aaron Rodgers and the Tom Brady, and he gets hurt, now you've got to bring in the backup, who is good enough and dependent, but there's always something he's lacking. Maybe he doesn't have the arm strength. Maybe he's not as accurate, or his smarts. A wide receiver and will look at, everybody else has to bring their game in order for you to have a chance. Your defense, your running backs, the wide receivers, they may look when Tom Brady's on the field, and you may make eye contact before the snap and see that you both notice something, and your route, you're supposed to go a little bit off to the right, but instead I'm going to fake to the right and go left. And you and Brady make that eye contact, that. So now your backup's in there, and he's not going to see that. So I need to be right on the money with my routes. I need to come for the ball. I need to, I'm not going to make big plays, but maybe when we throw a screen pass, it's on me to bust it and turn that screen pass from a 3-yard gain into a 9-yard gain. But it's also on the defense. It's on the defense you can't give up, normally you can give up 20 points and we'll win. Today you can only give up 13 if we want to have a chance to win. And we need to get turnovers and maybe even score some points off defense. Everybody else needs to bring it when your backup quarterback comes in. And that's basically when you're playing a deep block, because McTominay and Fred, if you blitz them, i.e. press, they're great. They can get rid of it really quick, and then there's less defenders for Rashford and Martial and Bruno to worry about, and they'll get them the ball, and those guys can run and have a field day. But if you sit back on them and you're just asking them to spray passes, that's where they struggle. And everyone else now needs to, this, like we have seen this time and time again. So
I'll tell you where
everyone needs to do their part.
Sorry, Paulie. Sorry.
Carry on. Everybody just needs to pick up a little bit more of the weight and do their part. And when McTominay and Fred are passing between the lines, or Shaw, Maguire, and your first touch is to just give it back to them, that does nothing. The whole reason of playing back to goal, and the whole, you're playing back to goal so that you can get the ball, hold it up, and change the level of where the attack starts from. And Alan, I did mention that in the article. The key to American football is your skill players are useless without a good offensive line. I did mention that, but
line is slightly different in American football, though. Your offensive line does something slightly different to what your offensive line does in football. Obviously, in soccer.
I do start the article by saying there's actually 3 things, but today we're focusing on the first 2. And I said the midfield is also your offensive line, but that's a different conversation.
If I look at United's offensive line in Cavani, Martial, and Rashford, I wouldn't like to think they were doing the offensive line job of an offensive line team, if you know what I mean, in an NFL team, Paulie. They're not the most physically opposing guys, are they?
Right. And so, but what it comes down to is, if you pass through the lines at Cavani or Martial and they just hold the ball for a second and someone makes a run off of them and they play that run, even if it's not perfect, even if they lose the ball, you get the defenders moving around. You get people now in motion. And no one even takes it on the half. Only Bruno Fernandes, the only player that even takes it on the half turn. And because everybody else goes full back to goal, they just pass it straight back. And then you get situations where McTominay or Maguire or Shaw are carrying the ball forward. And all that does is give the defense a chance to sit back, to drop back, get all their men behind the ball and pack it in. And then you're and now you've got to go back to, you've got to start all over again. So the forwards, it's not just the midfield because, okay, they don't have the passing ability of Pogba, but they're still making passes. You need to take those passes and actually receive them and not just one touching it back. It just doesn't do anything.
Paulie, can I just say it's a fantastic point you make? And I know for a fact you won't have been watching Sky Sports because obviously you get a different feed over where you are. But we had Gary Neville on Sky Sports for the game against West Brom in the commentary. And I have to say, he made this very point in the sense that he was very critical of how West Brom were trying to approach the game, especially after the first 20 minutes. He said that, look, there was a time when Sam Allardyce...
First 20, in the second minute when it was 1-0, I was like, West Brom might not touch the ball the rest of the game.
Well, let me just finish what I'm saying, because basically what I'm saying is, Paulie, he said that, look, this Allardyce way of playing, the way West Brom were doing it, 10 years ago in the Premier League, you could have won games playing that way. You could have got points playing that way. But he said nowadays the game is much more technical. And like you were saying, Paulie, the amount of players that can receive the ball on the half turn can just pick passes more now, can attack space and defenders more. It almost makes it less likely that, that Allardyce way will work anymore. And I think that marries up perfectly with what you were saying in your article. And also, what I just want to say, Paulie, is when you talk about these forward players doing more, who remembers the Anthony Martial who we used to be able to feed the ball out to on the left, Paulie? And he was so dynamic at just taking on someone, getting us up the pitch by carrying the ball. Just, again, like your analogy, like a wide receiver, just a simple short pass that, I'm trying to think, our midfielders back then would have been what? Schneiderlin, people like that, Andrew Herrera. They didn't have to be great passes of the ball because you gave Martial.
He was playing down the middle that season too.
Yeah, exactly. Yes,
but what I'm saying looked like the only player that wanted to turn and run at players.
Yeah, exactly. And we could really do with that Martial now because, like you say, Paul, it might not come off, but what it does is it pushes defenses back. It moves them around a little bit, and it just creates more space for the better players that we have nowadays in the squad. So we need that Anthony Martial, I think, more than we ever have right now, if he's going to play on the left.
Someone said to me this morning, and this is their opinion, but I thought it was interesting. I don't know if it's true or not, but they said it looks like Martial really bulked himself up to prepare to get more physical for that center forward thing, to play center forward. And that's what he spent his time doing. And then we brought in Cavani and basically shifted him out to the left, but because he's bulked up, he's less dynamic now. And we're seeing that. And it's like, we're trying to basically be like, hey, go be the left wing that you were 3 years ago. And he's just not that person anymore. That was what I wrote about in this thing, was basically the reason that you went to Martial over Greenwood for this game was you run to beat a low block. You got to run at them. If you run at these players, you could get by them. You could win penalties. You're going to win more fouls. You're going to make them move. And if you're winning fouls with the delivery of Bruno and Shaw, and you've got the heading ability of Maguire and Cavani and McTominay in there, like that's a pretty good thing. If you can pepper them with set pieces, you've got a pretty good chance. United are actually not terrible on set pieces this year, but they weren't running it. So he put his dribblers in there and they weren't running at people. And Rashford did it a little bit from the right and then moved over to the left. Daniel has this comment, he moved over to the left where when he's in the left, it just becomes he's either flat-footed and he tries a dumb little pass, or he just runs at three players. And he just becomes so determined to run at defenders. And part of the thing is his left foot is better than he himself gives it credit for. He can, from the right, he can cut in on his left foot. He can't cut in and shoot on his left, but he can cut in and on his left and use his left foot to create opportunities for him to pull it back onto his right and shoot. he doesn't even use it when he's out on the left-hand side. On the left-hand side, it's only cut inside on my right foot to shoot. But, and I think part of when you put him on the right side, and you're able to play it more into his, you play it that diagonal, he'll take that on his right foot. So he doesn't have to fully turn around. And I think that's part of the reason why he's actually performing more from the right. He's producing more from the right side than he is from the left this year.
Yeah.
I mean, those numbers are way better than he has ever produced. Everybody said, oh, Rashford's a left wing and we're playing him out of position. And he's producing way more from the right than he ever produced from the left. Rashford is kind of becoming the definition of can play across the front three, but maybe not exactly a specialist at any one of them.
Yeah. No, I agree, Pauly. I'm used to you elaborating a bit more there, but you caught me out with a quite abrupt ending. So yeah, no, I agree, and it's interesting, Pauly, because I think we all say, don't we? We prefer we on the eye, it looks better when Rashford's coming off the left if you want to see the best of Marcus Rashford, but actually those stats say something slightly different.
If you look at Rashford's goals this year, where he's coming off the left, almost every single one of them is him running in behind the defenders and getting played in through by a long ball, or against Sheffield United, they did it on a counterattack. So against a low block, you're not going to get that space. So from the right, he's been much more of a creator and much more of a better forward. So it makes sense against a low block to play him out on the left. Remember, he didn't score against low blocks last year. His goals came in games where United were able to play on the counter.
Yeah, no, I agree. And look, Pauly, it'll be so interesting if United, I mean, we don't know what Ahmad's going to do yet. We don't know how he's going to turn out. We don't know whether United will go back in for Jadon Sancho in the summer or another right wing. But wouldn't it be nice, Pauly, if they could have that running threat down both wings, obviously, to just, like I say, I think another problem for United, I mean, you probably have stats to back it up, Pauly, but I think over the last few weeks, they've almost got a bit predictable for some teams, is that a lot of their creativities come down the left, and teams know if they want to do something in a game, if they're desperate, their default right now is to go towards that left-hand side, because especially when Rashford's out there, Luke Shaw, they're your game changers at the moment. So I don't know, it just felt like that in the last 10 minutes against West Brom, that they just went down that, they had to go down that left far too often.
Yes, but it's not a new thing. Like they did that last year too. Even even when Rashford wasn't in, they've always been left side heavy. What they have been doing recently is they've been crossing the ball a lot more, and Shaw's gotten better at this. But last year they didn't cross it at all. They were the highest team in the league at entering the box through passing that weren't crosses, which is partially why they won the most penalties. City were number 2 in that regard. City won the second most penalties. If you have the ball at your feet and you're running at defenders, you'll win penalties. If you loft the ball up for your 6-foot striker to compete against 2 6'2", 6'3" center backs, you're probably not going to win that header.
Yeah.
They've started, you need to cross it more against these low blocks. That is the best way to do it. And City did that a lot. That was City's plan B for beating low blocks. And we needed to get better at it. It's why we signed Telles. It's why we signed Cavani. Shaw getting better at it is just a big time added bonus. But recently in the last 2 weeks, it seemed like that's been the only thing. And that's what's made us predictable. Last year we were predictable in the other way. And one of the reasons you signed Cavani is not to change plan A, but to give plan A more options. It doesn't seem like we're doing that. And Cavani is just, he's not contributing anything to the build-up play. And like every time he got the ball against West Brom, he just wanted to get rid of it and run to get open, which is fine. But, if your game is I'm going to make my movement in the box to get open and receive these crosses and make space for other players, you need to get the ball deep in order for you to get into the box and start doing that kind of stuff. And we need all 3 forwards to contribute to getting the ball deep. And if we're playing now with McTominay and Fred and Greenwood's not a big progressing guy, Rashford's not really a progressing guy. And if Cavani, this is the point. The forwards, they have to adapt and they have to take more responsibility onto their plate, because if he's not going to help in that regard, then you're playing a man short, and it makes it harder, and it makes it so that you can't even utilize his strengths.
No, exactly, Paul. Look, Paul, it's like I say, it was a great article you put together with some fantastic points. Just before we move on, do you just want to point people in the direction again, Paul, of where they can catch it and where they can read it?
You can read it on the busbybabe.com. It's like the first article that comes up.
Brilliant. Of course it is. Of course it is. Right, Paul, just like, again, we've got some other things that we want to cover, but I do just want to ask you about this Mason Greenwood contract quickly. I'll be honest with you, it's kind of took me by surprise a little bit, which is not always a bad thing. I think that's good. It's nice to see that United doing some work without it always getting leaked out or whatever. I always like it when I see talented young players committing themselves to the club, Paulie. I know people say he's a local lad. He was born in Bradford, which is a different county, but he's a local lad in the sense that he's come through the academy and lived in Manchester for a while. And, he could be a superstar in the future. So I think it's a positive thing that he wants to stay at the club, and he obviously sees us going places in the years to come. That's why I like to see young players signing, because I feel like, especially people like Marcus Rashford, who are very intelligent players, we know they are because of the work that they do off the field. If they're going to commit to their long term future to United, I think it's a sign that they think that the club's going in the right direction as well.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is just what you do as an academy player. You're making 10 grand a week, and United said, I think his new contract, I believe, is 25 grand a week. So you're making 10 grand a week. That's pretty standard when you sign coming out of the academy. And United say, we're going to make it 25 grand a week. Yeah, you take that. I'm pretty sure his contract was till 2024 anyway. So, it wasn't like he was leaving. It was also built into his contract. Was when they gave him the contract, and when they give any of the youth academy players contracts, you have to have a Marcus Rashford impact to get a completely new deal, because most of them are, here's your contract. You play well. We're going to raise you to this amount next year. And the next raise will be this amount. And he played well. There were, it was obvious they were going to extend his contract at the end of last year, but kudos to the club, keep him grounded. He had some issues at the beginning of the season. So make him fight and earn it. I just wrote about this on Friday. You could see it on questthoughts.substack.com about, his goals are down this year, but he's become a much better all-around player. And statistically, he's having a better season, which is good. And the more, we've talked about this plenty of times, when he gets the ball in the box and four players converge on him, and when he starts making that pass, and when he starts being less predictable, the goals are going to come back. So it's great to see the other things happening. I mean, but like contract extension, this is just a nice little ploy by the club to get some positive social media vibes.
The other thing I'll say on this as well, Paul, is this could have been agreed for a long time, potentially. And they were probably just waiting for a time when they felt United fans needed a bit of a pick-me-up and they needed some good news. And obviously, there has been a lot of negativity around the club recently with some of the results in the one win in the last 5 against the standard of opposition that we played against. Even the abuse that some players have received on social media. It's just been, especially given sort of from October to January, this last month or so has just been a sort of reality check for United fans. So I think it was a good time to release the news, and hopefully it will get a few more fans on side. Paulie, you did one of my favourite things yesterday. You put out a poll question. I do like these poll questions that sort of get me sort of quite thought provoking, and also I get involved. And I don't know every question you seem to answer. It's never an easy one for me. I sort of have to argue with myself for half an hour, and then I put a vote in. But let's get it up, Paulie, and let's have a look what the people had to say. So yeah, let's have a look at the poll question this week. So, Paulie, the poll question that you put out this week for us all, and I thought it was a really good one. Very left field. I didn't see this one coming at all, to be honest. I didn't know where you were going to go with it this week, but yeah, this was a different one for me. You put, should we look to increase consistency? Do you think football should stop the clock whenever the ball goes out of play? You gave 3 options. You said yes, you said no, and you said only during added time. And as usual, Paulie, with these poll questions, I found myself in the minority, in the big minority, because I went for only during added time. And just to quickly say why I went for only during added time, if you're watching now, by the way, guys, let us know your thoughts in the comments. We will get them up. We can put them to Paulie, see what your thinking is. If you voted on this, tell us your rationale behind it. But yeah, the reason I went for only in added time, Paulie, is because I feel like that for me it's a crunch time in a game, if you know what I mean. And I know there's this ridiculous stat that goes around. I think last season someone said the ball was only in play for 52 minutes you only actually get 52 minutes of the ball in play on average in a 90-minute match, which is crazy, really, when you think about how much time the game spends stopped, how much time the ball spends out of play, set pieces, whatever. But you just look at certain situations sometimes at a time, and there is so much time wasting goes on, Paulie. But for me as well, the problem with goals in added time, like we saw with Everton, is that there is no way of coming back from them usually. When they happen in added time, that is it. You've got less time to obviously recover. So that was my thinking behind it. But if I wasn't to go for that, I'd have probably been in the majority and said, yes, I think we do. It's something that I've thought about for a while, to be fair, Paul. I think, the game needs 52 minutes of action in a 90-minute game just doesn't seem right. Look, we're going to keep this to football, but when you talk about buying a ticket and an entertainment value as well, you know what I mean? There's an argument to be had from that perspective as well, I think. I don't know what you think. You give us your thoughts.
The problem is you and every one of the commenters and me all agree. 52 minutes. I think it's 55. I've seen different times. It's somewhere around there, but I've also seen things
you say like, tomato, I say tomato.
Right.
Carry on. Yeah.
I've also seen things like, I think this was from a few years ago, like Bournemouth, West Brom, and it's like the ball is in play for 47 minutes. And it's like, okay, but nobody wants to see more of Bournemouth and West Brom. Like, so that's the thing is, first of all, 52 minutes out of 90 is way better than in the NFL. Like there's like 11 minutes of action and it takes 4 hours to play those games, or 3.5 hours to play those games. You can't do it over the full 90 minutes. No. One of the things that I like about football, and I think what a lot of people like, is it's 2 hours. That game kicks off at 3 o'clock. At 5 o'clock, it's going to be over. And if you start stopping the clock, first of all, if that's true, 55 minutes over a 90-minute game, so we're going to add another 35 minutes. Like the players are already playing too much football. They're already like almost died. Their hamstrings are practically exploding on the field. So we can't add 35 minutes of game. Like, the games will be so much longer. They'll take 3 hours, but everything, I think across sports, everything that is done with the right idea in mind quickly goes the other way. And everything can be exploited for an advantage and will quickly lose the spirit of why we're doing it. I think you'll see, ball goes out for a goal kick. There's no, if the clock is stopped, there's no time wasting because the clock.
I'll be honest with you, Paulie.
So would it shock you? Would it shock you if ball goes out for a goal kick? Hugo Lloris sets it down. Jose Mourinho from the touchline goes, "Hey, Hugo, hold up there." Calls over Tanguy Ndombele and Harry Kane and says, "All right," and spends 30 seconds with them going, "Here's what I want you guys to do." Then go back out. Okay, Hugo.
And this is my point, Paulie, because what I want to say is that I think you have to be selective on when the clock stops. And for me, the clock would only stop if it was a free kick situation. So, like when you need to set up the wall and things like that, or if you want to make a substitute, I think that's another thing. I don't think you stop the clock when as soon as the ball goes over the line for a throw-in or a goal kick. I don't think you stop it in that situation. I think you stop it if it's a free kick. But then you could argue the same as a goal kick, Paulie. What's to say the player doesn't go down, feigning injury? You stop in the clock. Well, not feigning injury because that's not a free kick, but a player gets a foul, it wins a foul, and then you stop it. and then the same happens as what you've just described it as goal kick. I don't suppose there's any difference really between a free kick and a goal kick in that situation.
Right. And I think you'll see more time wasting because, again, it's not time wasting. It's not time wasting because now the clock stopped, but you'll see more like, oh, let's catch our breath. And it would ruin the flow of the game. What I think needs to happen first of all, if they were going to do this, they would have to make the halves 30 minutes long. So you're playing 60 minutes, if the ball's already in play for 55 minutes, you're adding 5 minutes, not 35. And, there's what's this comment from Aditya, I believe. Yeah. Or not this one. One of the comments.
He agrees with me, so you won't like that one, Paul.
Yeah, look, it's difficult to think of football without 90. What they need to do is make the timing better and more consistent. Is when they came out with VAR, they said every second that we use for VAR will be added back on, and that has not happened. And when an injury is down, you got to add a reasonable amount of time back. I don't think we need to add every second back, but you have to add a reasonable amount of time back in. And then, yes, during, added time has a lot of injury time, all these names. One of them is stoppage time. Just stop the clock then.
I think with VAR, Paulie, to make it clearer in terms of stoppages for VAR, because sometimes you see some long VAR stoppages and they're not reflected in the stoppage time at the end. I think what they need to look at over a course of time is the average time it's taking VAR to make a decision. Then within that, if it's 1 minute 30, for example, if that's the mean time, if that's the average time, you say, if we have a VAR discussion in this half, there will be a standard 2 minutes added on or a standard 1 minute added on for that one VAR check, because you get it with substitutes. They tell you that if you make a substitute, it's a 30-second added on in stoppage time. Well, some substitutions take 30 seconds, some substitutes take 10 seconds, and some substitutes might take longer than 30 seconds. So if they can have a one-size-fits-all for added time for a substitute, then why can they not do that for VAR over time when they have enough evidence to collate to suggest that there is a similarity in the sort of time decision making that's going on, and you can make an average out of it.
I do that. I think the ref just has to be more diligent. You're wasting time. I'm going to add that back, and then when we put on the board 3 minutes, 3 minutes get played, because you ask where this came from, and here's where it came from. We all remember a week ago against Everton. It said 4 minutes on the board, and De Gea took that free kick with 94.06. And, United got fouled with 93.25 on the clock. They wasted 40 seconds before taking that free kick. And the referee was right to add on that time and say, hey, you wasted this time, so we're adding it back. He made the right call. Then West Brom this week, end of the first half, 2 minutes go up on the board. 45-25. That ball goes out for a corner. They took 35 seconds to take that corner. It went out for another corner. They took another 30 seconds to put that ball in play for another corner, which one head, two head flicked out, third corner. And then at the third corner, there's now 46-58. And the ball has been in play in added time, what's supposed to be 2 minutes. The ball's been in play for less than 40 seconds. And they took a short corner because they were like, well, we're basically done here. And then United get a break at 47:07, and he blows it dead. So West Brom got rewarded for time wasting. United didn't. But why would United time waste? Because sometimes you do get rewarded. That's the problem.
It's game management, Paulie. We criticised this team for not showing clever game management. They did try to in that game, and they got punished by the referee.
Why wouldn't you do it? Because sometimes it works. Sometimes De Gea, you waste 40 seconds. De Gea then kicks it long, and they blow the whistle. And sometimes they go, no, we're adding that time. So here's the thing. So during stoppage time, you kick that ball out for a corner, clock stops. And when it goes out for three corners, okay, well, there's still 40, the clock still says 45-30. There's still a minute and a half to go in this. And this way, you actually play the stoppage time. And because, look, United yelled at Craig Paulson, and he looked at them and he said, sorry, we ran out of time. If we ran out of time, why didn't you blow the whistle at 47 minutes when West Brom were still attacking? And look, part of that, I kind of like part of that. I kind of like the, oh, we'll let you take this and we'll let you finish out the attack. But it should be, you know, not even the referee. Like, let's not have the referee focus on, oh, I blew the whistle. Let's not, you know, fourth official or the VAR. They're all talking in the ear the entire game. Someone else sits there with the stopwatch. And when that ball goes out for any reason during stoppage time, you stop the clock. And when it hits, if you put 3 minutes on the board, when it hits 3 minutes, when the stopwatch hits 3 minutes, you radio into the ref and you go, okay, we've hit 3 minutes. And now the ref can decide when to blow the whistle.
Well, it happens in rugby. Rugby, for example, when the game is up, when the 80 minutes is up, or half time, 40 minutes is up, the game continues until the
ball goes into touch. See, I don't really like that though either, because you can waste time and everything. And then when you have the ball, 79-30. Okay, we just have to hold it for another 30 seconds. 80-01, you kick it out of bounds and it's over. So I do, and look, this is the first half. So the game's not over and anything, it's 1-1, anything can happen. Yeah. West Brom you just need to find some sort of consistency. And I do like the way it's done, but it's just when, to a point, if we start stopping the clock for everything, trust me, you'll see more VAR. Because they'll be like, let's take a look at that. The clock stopped. Basketball now is ridiculous. They review everything because they're like, oh, it doesn't matter. The clock stopped. Yeah. So it just like, if you put 3 minutes up on the board, we're going to play 3 minutes. If you put 2 minutes, the fact that they managed to kill off 90 seconds there, it's just too inconsistent.
One final point on this, Paulie, before we finish up, and it's my biggest bugbear, is the goals that are scored in stoppage time. So I don't know when Everton's goal was clocked, obviously, for their winner, but it's amazing how many times you'll see a goal scored in stoppage time. We've gone over the elapsed added time. The team kick off and the whistle blows. It's the last kick of the game. They've literally scored with the penultimate kick of the game, excluding the kickoff. If there's a goal, Paulie, surely you have to allow the time that a team has taken for that goal as well. I mean, the celebrate. I mean, especially in the Everton situation.
I mean, do you remember Everton would have been when I think Bournemouth scored that equalizer or scored a winner, and they were Everton, and they were like all celebrating, and the fans jumped on the pitch and everything, and then Everton went down and scored.
Yeah, but
sometimes they do.
What I'm saying is, Paulie, is like that game was 3-3. Now, Everton, I can't remember. I know Calvert-Lewin slid on his knees. I would imagine they spent a lot of time in the corner hugging him and whatever. I think there should have been some time there as well, whether you stop the clock or whether you add another 30 seconds on for a goal, a standard time across the board. I don't know. But it just seems that when there's a goal so late in added time like that, it's unfair that the next action is to kick off and blow the whistle, because surely there's been some time that needs to be made up for the goal that's been celebrated.
I mean, yeah, that's where the inconsistency comes from. How many times do we see, the team is pushing. They take a shot, it goes over. Okay, goal kick, and they blow the whistle after the goalkeeper takes the goal kick. Why? Because sometimes we see they there's 4 minutes on the board and it says 4:20. It's 94-20 and they kick it over and the ref just blows the whistle. Sometimes we see that. Sometimes they make the goalkeeper take it. Martial's goal against Everton at Goodison Park in the League Cup, that was it. He scored 2-0. Referee just said, that's it. Why did United have, why United? But then last week they make United take McTominay's goal against City in the derby last March. That was it. They blew the whistle. It's like, why do we make them go and kick off? And as soon as they kick it off, we blow the whistle. Like, there's no consistency. It doesn't make any sense. And let's just strive for more consistency without ruining everything else, without making too many other changes. And I think the best way to do that is let's keep the game the way it is. Let's be more diligent about adding time. So when we have a 3-minute VAR, make sure that we add 3 minutes. When we have, because that's not even the player. That's not the players wasting time. That is the referee and everything.
Yeah, no.
And then if we put 3 minutes on the board, we are playing 3 minutes.
Yeah, no, I agree. Absolutely spot on. I do find it a little bit ironic that we've got two United fans here having a gripe over goals in added time, though, Paulie. Maybe our time has come, eh? It's our comeuppance for all those Fergie time goals.
He would score, but how many of those Fergie time goals came after The
Michael Owen
goal came in the 6th minute when they put on 94. But guess what?
Yeah.
Guess what? That's because they did it correctly. If they would have stopped the clock,
there'd be nothing wrong with that goal.
Time, that goal would have been within the 4 minutes.
Yeah, and right now, Mark Hughes wouldn't be reaching for the Just for Men to cover all those grey hairs up. But there we go. There we go. Thank you ever so much for everyone who's joined us today. We've had some fantastic comments in. You all make some valid points. I liked one that we saw there towards the end about just stopping the clock during VAR checks. I think that's a really good point. Actually, that's something that you can do. We have had comments from people who joined late asking us about Juan Mata. Do go back to the start of this video. We have a good chat about Juan Mata and his involvement at United and why he's not playing so much. And some people asking us about what formation we go for. We also talked about how we'd approach the Sociedad game on Thursday. So just go back to the start of the video and check it out. We won't be with you on Thursday because UEFA have conveniently put the game in our happy hour slot. I don't know why they didn't consider us poorly when they did that. Never mind. Obviously, they're not aware of the happy hour yet. We haven't quite reached out to UEFA yet, but we will get there. Thank you ever so much again to everyone who joined us, and we'll see you next Tuesday for the next United happy hour.